6:30 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Monday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, Montana lawmakers begin delving into just how they will divvy up $3 billion in Montana COVID-19 funding. This as the director for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issues a warning of impending doom and tells the White House she is scared. Well, that message from CDC Director Rochelle Walensky. The latest data shows after 2 months of steady decline, the average case count across the country has jumped by more than 8,000 active cases each day. Here in Montana, the state reports 145 new cases. Active cases are steady at just under 1,000, and health officials report 1 new death. Also here in Montana, a major COVID-19 relief spending bill is moving on to the full House. Today, a budget committee finished its work on the bill, which appropriates billions of dollars the state is receiving from the federal government. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian takes a closer look.
The House Appropriations Committee has spent the last 2 weeks in intensive work on House Bill 632. On Monday, they finalized the bill text that will be debated on the House floor. They've been rushing to get the bill through the House before a deadline next week.
632 is not perfect in its current form. It certainly has got a lot of the work we've done so far in it.
On Monday, committee members approved the updated text, then passed the bill on a 16-8 vote. Under the plan laid out in HB 632, the several $billion of federal relief and stimulus funds would be divided into 5 large sections: education, health, general infrastructure, including water and sewer, broadband and other communications, and economic stabilization, including housing assistance and workforce development. Each would receive hundreds of millions of dollars. For most of those sections, the bill would set up an advisory commission consisting of lawmakers and members chosen by the governor that would make recommendations on how the money should be used after the legislature adjourns. Supporters say this funding is an opportunity the state has to take.
We're going to do water projects in Circle and put shovels in the ground in Butte, America, and do workforce training in Helena and small business loans in Kalispell, and we're going to invest in Montana and the people of Montana.
Some committee members had concerns about how the money will be distributed, particularly a provision that would reduce the amount of some grants to local governments that have stricter COVID-19 protocols than the state.
Cities and counties are being extorted to take off their regulations. And the problem that I see with this is that we're not done yet.
But supporters of that provision said it was reasonable, especially going forward into the summer.
I find it ironic that there could be local governments that are imposing strict COVID protocol, which hurts the economy, which hurts the people, and now we want more tax money to bail that out.
House leadership wants to get HB 632 through the House before the Easter break, which starts on Friday. The bill is set for a preliminary vote in the House on Tuesday. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. An additional $15 million is coming to Montana to help address a hospital worker gap left by the pandemic. The money is coming from FEMA. While the agency already paid out nearly $26.5 million in assistance, this money will serve as a reimbursement to help 13 Montana medical facilities cover the costs associated with medical staff shortages. At the peak of the pandemic, nurses and respiratory therapists were recruited and contracted to help. And if you don't have your COVID-19 vaccine, this week is a great time to get scheduled. Riverstone Health reports there are more than 1,300 open appointments for this week's clinic at Metro Park. Most of those appointments are open on Thursday and Friday of this week. Vaccinations are open to anyone 16 and older. You can go to mtreadyclinic.org to make your appointment. Well, the head of Montana's teachers union says educators are making sure agreements made with districts surrounding COVID-19 safety, including face masks, are upheld. In recent weeks, some districts, including Laurel, have gone back to masks in class after union members threatened legal action. There is hope for curbing the pandemic as teachers across Montana get in line to get vaccinated and have been ahead of Governor Greg Gianforte's order to give all Montanans a COVID shot starting April 1st. Well, still, until the pandemic is over, Union President Amanda Curtis says Montanans keep their word when it comes to contracts.
Well, as you know, it's different in a school with 4 students than it is in a school with 4,000 students. And communities are making the decisions that are right for their circumstances. And all across the state, we have in each local or at each district bargained an agreement on whether or not masks will be required and the duration of that mask mandate. And where we have those contracts, districts need to stick to the contract unless both sides agree to change the terms.
Although some districts have had to go back on the decision to lift restrictions, Curtis says there are no contentious circumstances anywhere in Montana between the union and districts. Well, it's an issue people in Warden and Ballantyne have been dealing with for more than a year. Tap water that's unsafe to drink. Well, a high nitrate warning was reissued today, urging residents in Warden and Ballantyne not to cook or drink with water from the tap. Q2's Mitch Laggy joins us now with more as one official tells us they are close to finding a solution.
For more than a year, residents in Warden and Ballantyne have been without clean tap water. Now, officials are making headway on a series of wells that hope to alleviate the problem and provide clean drinking water again. Water district officials have reissued a high nitrate advisory for the system. The high nitrate water advisory does not include the communities of Shepherd, Lockwood, Billings, or Laurel. For safety, people in Warden and Ballantyne are advised not to cook or drink with water from the tap. Boiling the water only serves to make it more dangerous and does not take the nitrates out of the water. Infants and pregnant women are at a higher risk for health problems associated with nitrates. The water is still safe, however, to bathe and wash clothes. The problem is that groundwater filled with nitrates seeps into miles of collector drains that currently feed the system. The new nitrate advisory doesn't make any changes to the one issued about this time last year.
Basically, nothing's changed. Our water is still under advisory and will remain that way until we develop a new water source that meets all their requirements. And that's what we're working on now with the drilling of wells to replace the existing water supply with an entirely new one.
Frederick said the water board has already drilled 4 test wells thus far, and once the permitting process moves along, construction can be completed quickly. In Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch. Now, Frederick says the goal with the wells is to tap into water far beneath the water that currently feeds the system. Well, a Billings man who fled from police is now behind bars as the murder suspect in a Heights shooting earlier this month. 31-year-old Vidal Not Afraid is facing deliberate homicide charges in the death of 29-year-old Taryn Old Crow. Court documents say the two men argued and Old Crow was shot. On March 7th, Old Crow was found with a gunshot wound to his torso at the 300 block of Sioux Lane. He later died, but prosecutors say Not Afraid fled the scene. Then on March 16th, police got into a traffic pursuit with Not Afraid, but he got away. On March 24th, officers were able to corner Not Afraid in an alley near 33rd Street. Not Afraid was identified as the shooter from a photo lineup. He is set to appear in court tomorrow morning. Well, the bill backed by the Gianforte administration to implement recreational marijuana here in Montana is finally introduced. All 144 pages of it. House Bill 701 proposes many changes in the voter initiative that Montanans passed last November. One of the biggest changes is that counties would have to take action to approve the operation of any marijuana dispensaries within their borders. Now, this is not the only bill before the legislature that would change what voters approved. Republican Representative Derek Skees of Kalispell introduced his own bill last week, and it's scheduled for a hearing on Tuesday. Now, Hopkins' bill will likely be scheduled for a hearing later this week. A Republican state senator introduces a major rewrite of Montana's state income taxes. The goal? To lower and simplify them. And as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, it could become a substitute for a state income tax cut proposed by the governor.
State Senator Greg Hertz of Polson dropped in his 97-page bill late Friday. It reduces the number of income tax brackets from 6 down to only 2. The top rate would drop from 6.9% down to 6.5% for any taxable income over $20,500 for a single filer and over $41,000 for a married couple. Income below those levels would be taxed at 4.7%. Hertz says it also would drop as many as 50,000 low-income Montanans off the income tax rolls entirely. That's because his bill essentially incorporates the high federal standard deductions, so anyone earning up to $12,400 or $24,800 for a couple would pay no state income tax at all. How much would this bill cut state income taxes? Hertz says about $45 million a year, an average reduction of about $70 per taxpayer. And finally, Hertz's proposal would get rid of at least 24 tax credits and deductions.
This will just make things a little simpler for folks. It's going to save most people taxes and give us a little broader base and a fair tax system where we're not picking winners and losers with credits and deductions.
Some of the tax credits Hertz would eliminate for donations to Montana colleges, for first-time home buyers, investments in energy conservation or solar power or geothermal power systems, or for preservation of historic buildings. Hertz also is the sponsor of the bill containing Governor Greg Gianforte's proposal to cut the top state income tax rate. Hertz says the governor's office told him they'd take a look at his new bill and, if it meets their expectations for tax policy, might be willing to support it. Democratic Senate Minority Leader Jill Cohenauer told MTN News Monday she has many questions about the bill's true impacts and who it actually benefits or not.
This continues to look like we're protecting a very few special interests, and we're not going to be looking at everyday Montanans and what is going to help them.
It's pretty clear that Republicans intend to cut state income taxes this session. As we get to the last few weeks of the legislature, the only question seems to be how they'll do it. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. Now, Hertz's bill has yet to be scheduled for its first committee hearing. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News on Q2, a time to remember Montana welcomes home.
Long before anybody got up for the day, the wind gusts were the big story, up to 57 miles an hour, but we'll show you some pictures of where the wind was really blowing with the forecast.